Hey, cosmic superstars, welcome to Honest Flow. So, Honest Flow is a channel where we or I have honest conversations to hopefully expand your mind, to hopefully plant some seeds and yeah, get you to see things from another perspective. And yeah, that's really the purpose of it. And it's also a place for me to practice my communication skills because I do struggle with verbal articulation. Sorry for the random pause. And yeah, if you are new here, I am kind of neurodivergent. I do have, I wouldn't say issues, I just process information in a different way. And I actually write much better than I verbalize things. And so sometimes I feel like when I'm writing, I feel like I'm a whole different person. And when I'm speaking, I feel like a whole different person. And if I were to like give two different archetypes or characters to see, the writer version of me sounds like some kind of academic. Like I write like an academic. I write like an academic or philosopher. Yet when I verbalize things, as you just perceived, I'm a little bit like I feel like it seems like I'm less intelligent, if that makes sense. But yeah, this is just how it is. I am highly introverted. I am on the ADHD spectrum, ADHDI, inattentive. But yeah, this is just who I am. This is part of me. But yeah, those who love me will love me. Those who don't, that's okay. You can move on. Yeah. So yeah, where am I going with this? Oh, okay. So today I actually wanted to oh, discuss something that I have noticed for myself through my own experiences. And I just really wanted to make people kind of aware of this. And I am, part of me is concerned that I'm going to get, some slaps in the face for this. Well, not physical slaps, but, some backlash, okay, for saying this. But you know what? I'm here to speak my truth. I'm here to call it as I see it. So I shall stand in my truth and power, and I'm not going to shift from what I'm about to say. So, number one, I have been embarking on this spiritual journey or spiritual path for the last since around 2018, I'd say. So 4 or 5 ish years now. Okay, so I've been on this journey for 4 or 5 years now, and I know for some it seems short. And I know that there are people that are going to be like, well, I've been blah, blah, blah. But, I'm going to get to that later. So I've been on the spiritual path for like 4 or 5 years now. And I would call it more of a spiritual awakening and activation, if that makes sense. Like if you were to ask me how long I've known to be nice to people, to be kind to people, and to never seek revenge, that's something I grew up with. That's innately part of who I am. And I've been through a lot of different experiences in life, and I've always felt like people were always attacking me, you know, not physically but verbally. Like I've always felt like I've got this invisible target on my back, and people always trying to have a go at me, trying to tear me down, trying to just rip me apart just for being me, just for being a nice person. And I've had people accuse me of being fake nice and then call me weak for being, for being nice, or for being this sort of more timid kind of feminine energy, this soft energy. And yeah, I've just been teased all my life. Like even as a child, I get called crybaby and sook, squeaky little mouse, people insulting my voice. And yeah, people don't realize how hurtful all these things were. But having said that, I learned to internalize and I learned to transmute on my own. And I learned to just keep picking myself back up and just keep believing that things would get better. Just keep having hope. And, I've had my heart broken so many times for so many different reasons as well. And, I've even had people who felt sorry for me, because people who've been in my life for a really long time know how many times I've had my heart broken. And I know people were like, oh, I feel so sorry for her, because those are the people who knew that I was always a good person, but I kept just attracting these really terrible experiences. And oh, I don't know why I'm getting so emotional thinking about it. But yeah, I've just been through so much. And there have been times in my life where I think it's just so not fair. And on top of all these, not so great experiences, I have people in the background, people who don't know anything about me, bystanders, haters, anonymous haters, just throwing rocks at me, just trying to, yeah, break me. And you know why? Because you're jealous, because you're insecure, because you have wounds. And it's not cool. And I'm telling you now, the more you do this, it's just going to take you backwards, guys. So you have to stop it. Stop being so competitive. Stop being threatened by someone just because they shine. You know, those of us who are natural light bearers, beacons of light, who enter this world to be this kind, glowing, loving presence, we don't deserve your hate. We're here to help you, but you're not helping us by doing the things that you're doing. And if anything, you're screwing it up for yourself, because we could actually help you. Anyway, I got totally sidetracked there, just like this energy just channeled through and it's like, say it. Okay, back to what I was saying, what we're talking about, spiritual journey. So this video, I actually really, really want to talk about embarking on the spiritual journey. And this video is focused or kind of, focused or geared towards those of you who are new to the spiritual path, who are just embarking on the spiritual path. I really want to share this information because I really want you to learn to be more discerning and aware of things, more mindful of what's going on around you. I want you guys to really be able to figure out the truth for yourself and not just believe everything you hear or see, okay? And what I want people to understand is this. So when you enter these new spiritual communities or groups or healing workshops or anything along those lines, self-development workshops and all that, you're gonna cross paths with all kinds of people. And you have to understand this, okay? Just understand this. When you enter these groups, everyone in that group, wherever group class that you've just attended, not everyone is woke. Not everyone is super conscious, okay? Because you have to understand there's a lot of people who are drawn to these groups because they're seeking healing, because they are wounded and trying to help themselves. So I want you to first remember that there are going to be wounded people in these groups. There will also be, yes, conscious people in those groups too, those who were drawn to those circles because they're trying to like reconnect with a part of themselves, but not really necessarily for healing anything or anything like that. And those would be like the natural light workers, the healers. They come into these groups because they're kind of finding themselves and they're there to be in service. Whereas there's others who are drawn to these groups who are wounded and there to get self-help and healing. So I really wanted you guys to really remember that, because I often notice and see, because I tend to be like an observer in these groups, that people get sort of, they fall into this sort of trap of thinking that everyone in that group is super conscious, and they fall into the trap of thinking the loudest person in the room, the one that talks a lot of talk, is the wisest or the most conscious. But I want you to get into the habit of, when you're in these groups, when you're entering and embarking on this journey, listen carefully to what people are saying and feel into the energy of what the people are saying. Because there are, I'm not saying everyone, but there are some spiritual phonies out there, I called it, that kind of, what's the word? They put on a show. They make it seem like they're more conscious and more spiritually woke than the rest of the group, when they're truly not, when they still have work to do. And don't ever fall into trap of thinking just because someone said, I have been on the spiritual path for the last, 2-3 decades. Don't always assume that means they're ahead of everyone. Because my question is, so if you have been on this spiritual path for the last 20, 30 years, why is it you're still in this healing circle? If you have been on this path of, self-development and, manifesting the life of your dreams and, just really aligning with your true self, why is it your life has barely changed since, when you started this journey? Why is it you're still kind of stuck? You're still sort of moving in a very slow or stagnant manner, right? Think about it, guys. Just because someone has done something for a very long time or started, their journey like 10, 20 something years ago, which I find funny. It's like, okay, so you started your journey 10, 20 years ago, but were you consistently working on yourself, or did you kind of dabble in astrology and then, got back into the real world and started getting lost into 3D stuff? And then, then you did a few bits in here, 10 years later, you did a few bits and pieces there. And yeah, it's just like, really dig deep when people say that kind of stuff. Ask them, like, how long and what have you done in the last 20 years? So you can actually find out how much work they've actually done. Because most of the time, people who throw out those, like, those numbers, that's sort of like, I feel like it's an insecurity, and it's a way they're trying to assert dominance and power, be like, I'm better than you. It's a bit of spiritual ego, sorry to say, it is. And we have to really be mindful and discerning when we're in these circles and really figure out who the truly conscious people are. And I'll give you a hint. It's not always the ones who are speaking the most loudest, the ones who are flaunting all their gifts, like, I can do this and I can do this and I can do this. It's not always them. And I'm not saying that it's not them either, but I'm saying just really observe, examine, and feel it, hear it. Just, yeah, take the time to really observe. And yeah, just be mindful of that, because I don't want anyone to get lost in these spiritual groups, because I know from my own experiences, when you enter these groups for the first time, you're so excited and you think that everyone's going to be conscious and everyone's going to be on the same wavelength as you. And then you start to notice people saying certain things and you're like, well, that doesn't seem like a very conscious thing to say. And then you hear them like bagging out another group or party, just doing things that really, if you're like truly switched on and conscious, that it's not something that we should be doing. So yeah, I just really want people to become more aware of that, and yeah, and always seek guidance from people who have the experience. And what I mean by that is, how can I say this? When you need advice on something, make sure that that person that you're approaching, especially in these spiritual groups, has not only experience in the area, but has mastered it, has overcome it, has succeeded in it. Like, for example, like very simple and very easy example. You want relationship advice. You go to the person who has experiences a lot of, relationships and succeeded in finding their soulmate and having a successful relationship. You want to go to those people for advice on how to find your soulmate and stuff, right? You don't go to the people who have yet to experience that for themselves. Yes, they might have a lot of relationship experiences in the sense that they, experienced a lot of breakups and stuff, but have they found their soulmate yet? Have they, reached that level yet? And if they're still finding it, then they're still working on it. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. Like, you wouldn't seek a driving lesson from an instructor who has never driven, or instructor who's only ridden a bike, or instructor who's only read about driving yet never drove, right? That's what I really want people to really start just remembering when you enter these groups, because it's quite overwhelming and you meet all these people and then you get all excited and then you can get lost in that excitement and then you just believe everyone you see. And I know that I've entered a lot of different spiritual circles and groups because, yeah, I've spent the last 4 or 5 years, just in and out a lot of different circles, and then coming to realize that I didn't vibe with a lot of the people because a lot of people, unfortunately, were still wounded and had things to work on. And I'm still seeking the people who are on my wavelength. And I'm not here to say that I'm superior or anything like that. I'm just seeking people on my wavelength. I'm not saying that I'm better or worse than anyone. I'm just seeking the people on my wavelength. Okay. And so I want people to just really take the time to know, and yeah, to be smart. Be smart on the spiritual path. Be smart with who you follow. Don't just follow for the sake of following. Don't just believe for the sake of believing. You know what I mean? Like, just follow your heart and really feel into the truth of things, the truth of things. And yeah, that's just something I really wanted to sort of highlight because, like I said, I've been in and out of a lot of spiritual circles, and I've met a lot of people who at first I thought, oh yeah, they seem like they're really super conscious, they'll be great spiritual leaders and stuff. And then I'd start catching glimpses of their true character, and I'll be like, and I'll be like, yeah, I think this community is not for me. And yeah. And actually, I'll give you this really quick example before I leave. Um, a few years back, I actually entered this Indigo forum on Facebook, this Indigo page on Facebook. And at first I was excited because I was like, because I resonate with being an Indigo, but I'm not attached to the label, so it's not like, oh, I'm an Indigo, blah blah blah. I'm just like, oh, I resonate with it and it's nice to know, but I'm not attached to it. But anyway, moving on. I entered this group, this Facebook page, and you've got to like actually request to enter it. And at first I was excited to see, all the different other people who resonate with Indigo. And then I started seeing certain comments and people saying things, and then I realized there was a lot of people in that group who were simply attaching to the label, the identity, to belong. And they would say things like, oh, indigos, we have a very rebellious way of thinking. And yeah, they would, how can I say this? They were basically masking certain things, like saying, as indigos, because it's known that indigos are quite rebellious and, they have very radical worldviews and stuff like that. And then there was something, people were talking about something in this group. And then I just felt like these people were basically, what's the word when you say, they had these really sort of obnoxious ideas or concepts. They were basically giving themselves a free pass for their obnoxious behavior. Is that how I say it? I felt like they were using the Indigo title to sort of allow themselves to be obnoxious and be entitled and act a certain way. And I was like, this is not Indigo behavior. This is not Indigo. Because my belief, it doesn't, maybe other people don't believe this, that a true Indigo, yes, while we have rebellious ways of thinking, we never ever like bag or diss another, because we are heart-led beings. We are so empathic. We feel for the others. And so we would never judge, and we would never, we'd never curse another group because we have that love for them. We rebel with cause, not rebel for no reason. And I just noticed certain things in this group and being said, and then I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna exit this group because this is not for me. The energy is not feeling right here. There's a lot of fakes in this group because they're just attaching to an identity to belong. And I did not, I just wasn't vibing with it, so I exited. And yeah, I learned a lot through that experience. But at the same time, in that group, there was one guy who was actually very depressed, who was seeking help in that group. So I understand that I was meant to just go in there and see that guy's post, and then I messaged him. It's like, hey, I noticed that you're seeking help. I'm gonna offer you a free healing, and I did, and I helped him. He's some guy in Germany, and after that, I never spoke to him again. I did my job and I moved on and I exited the group. But yeah, so I felt like I was called to that group to just help that guy sort out his things and then move on. And yeah, and I think I remember he kind of sent a message and said, thanks, you're like an earth angel. And yeah, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. But anyway, that was a sidetrack story. But anyway, I just really, 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 really want you guys, especially new to the spiritual path, finding yourself, don't believe everyone, really listen to what they're saying. And if you see someone talking in a way where they kind of imply that they're better than others, just be mindful of that. Okay, just know that there's a little bit of spiritual ego going on there, and spiritual ego does exist, and that's the ego trap, right? Doesn't matter where you go, there's always going to be ego plays. And I also want people to know that the ego is not necessarily a bad thing. A healthy level of self-confidence, a healthy level is ego is required, especially if you're meant to come into this world to be some sort of leader or take on that role. You've got to have that confidence, because then you got to instill confidence in others, right? But yeah, just be mindful of who you take your advice from, be mindful of these circles, and yeah, don't just follow the crowd because everyone else is doing it. Find your own way. Yeah, you know your way, because you know the answer. Anyway, I really love you guys, and I hope that made sense. And I felt like I rambled around circles, but anyway, I'm going to go eat my banh mi, which is a Vietnamese bread roll with cured meats, and then gonna go get ready to go dancing tonight. Bye, guys.